Maxey from outside. Sixers lead, courtesy of Tyrese Maxey.
Hit deep to left field. Going back is LoCastro. It is gone!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Beef Up Front podcast here on Pick Swap Media. It's your host, Ryan Coyle, as always, continuing today with our NBA Draft Player Profile series. Today, diving into one of my favorite, but also one of the best college basketball players over the past 2 years. I thought this Marquette team was going to win the national title this year. They were my pick coming into this season. They made it to the Sweet 16, still had a pretty successful season. The guy that we're going to get into today was a little bit up and down due to some health throughout the year. He was forced to miss some time. I think that kind of hindered Marquette's ultimate ceiling. But at the end of the day, Sweet 16, and a player that went from playing in George Mason during his freshman year to becoming, a Big East legend, a Marquette legend, one of the best players. The reigning was the Big East player of the year in 22-23. And just wound up having a really good career that no one really saw coming. Today, we're going to be getting into Tyler Kolek. Like I said, one of my favorite players to watch over the past few years, being a former guard myself, just watching him, he just knows how to play. He knows how to play the game right, and it's just a extension of a coach on the floor. That's the oldest cliche in the book about a point guard, but it's true. He always sees the game one play ahead. He kind of sees it before it happens, and I think that is something that you really can't coach. He's got those intangibles and whatnot that make him such a good player. The most talented guy? No. The most athletic guy? No. But still, just a rock-solid overall basketball player. And I think there's going to be a spot for him in the league, and we're going to get into that. So this is Tyler Kolek, Marquette senior, 6'3", 195 pounds, lefty, 23 years old. This past year, senior year at Marquette. 31 games played. He averaged 15.3 points per game, 33 minutes per game. Shot really efficient from the field, 49.6%, and shot 38.8% from three. So a really solid downtown shooter as well. Shoots 85.1% from the line. You'll have to see that from a point guard. But he doesn't just score the ball. Those just aren't the eye-popping numbers. 4.9 rebounds per game, really solid for a 6'3" guard. 7.7 assists per game. Just an absolutely gifted passer. 1.6 steals per game, 2.9 turnovers per game, but you'll take that. I think when you got a guy that's 7.7 assists per game, that's a really good ratio there, and that's just going to go with some of the passes he makes. Some of them are going to lead to turnovers because some of them not many guys can make. Once you get to the NBA, sure, there's a handful more, but the college game this year, I don't really think you could have found a much better passer than Tyler Kolek. A couple notes on him. Played at in 9 games this year, he scored 20 or more points. He had 10 games of double-digit assists, and then he had 7 games where he had 3 or more threes this season, and he had 8 double-doubles this year with points and assists. So guy that shows he's able to really balance it out and do a little bit of everything, not just score for himself, which I think he knows at the next level. He's not going to be counted on to be a 15 to 20 point per game type of guy, but more so a guy that comes in probably on a second unit, runs the team, sets up his teammates, and just makes the right plays, and he's definitely capable of doing that. So we'll just get into the breakdown of him and what I think Tyler Kolek will bring from the college game at Marquette to the NBA level, and where I kind of see his fit and the projection for him at the next level. He just plays the game. I've said it at the beginning. He plays it in a right way. And I saw Rick Pitino tweet it the other day, and that even gives me a little bit more confidence in him, where Rick Pitino's going out on a limb, and you didn't even play for him. He's going out on a limb and really showcasing for you and advocating for why you should be an NBA player. He was saying what I was kind of saying at the beginning, where he sees the game one step ahead. He makes a play before anyone else can see it, and that's the true testament of a really good point guard, and especially a point guard that doesn't have a real overwhelming skill set, overwhelming athleticism, or in height, speed, weight, whatever you want to say. He just is a basketball player at the end of the day. He's a pure hooper, and he just figures out a way to get the job done. He just has that it factor, Tyler Kolek, that isn't teachable. It's just the way he's wired. And I think that's why he's really going to find a way to stick in the league and really find a place as a really valuable, probably backup point guard, and maybe even potentially play himself into a starter as we go on. Has a great feel for the game, plays at a great pace when you watch him, isn't an explosive athlete and won't wow you. So he uses kind of the ability to change pace, change speed, change direction to his advantage, where he knows he's not going to be able to out athleticism, outpower guys. So he has to kind of try and switch things up, and he has a real good feel for that. Feels him or forces him to play the game at a very fundamental level, which he's very good at. And you're going to get guys in the NBA who are going to be able to, as I was saying, out athleticism you. He's never going to be that guy, but he's going to out fundamental you. And just kind of like what we saw, I guess, I don't think he'll ever reach this level, but what Jalen Brunson was, especially in the first couple years in the league, where it's wow, this guy's fundamentals are exquisite. He's not a overwhelmingly talented guy. He doesn't have overwhelming athleticism, but his fundamentals are really making him look like a good player. And now look what he's developed over time. And no one saw Jalen Brunson, what he was coming into the draft. I mean, I, for one, thought he was going to be a solid NBA player, a starter, but he's really kind of elevated himself into superstar level. I'm not saying Tyler Kolek's going to do that, but he kind of has that same pedigree and that kind of track record where he's just a really, really good college player. People are going to overthink it, and he might slip and fall and make people look stupid. And if he falls in the second round, like Jalen Brunson did, he could make a lot of teams stupid and make some GMs potentially lose their job, because he's one of these players that I feel like you don't want to bet against because he's been overlooked and he's been doubted time and time again. And just that it factor, that kind of swagger that he plays with, really makes him a guy that I want to bet on and have a chance to potentially get on my team. Really good at using ball screens, and he's really good. I think this is the best thing in terms of his off the dribble game, getting the defender in tough positions to get back in front of him. Like, he's really good at getting the defender on his back and keeping him there, whether he's going to the basket for a floater, going and trying to attack the rim, or creating for others. He's really good at getting the defense in uncomfortable situations. And then when he's able to get to the rim, he's really comfortable around the rim, finishing with both hands, and he has a real high arcing jump shot as well. So that's can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. He's got great arc on his shot. Obviously, that's a good thing. But sometimes with that high arc, it takes him a little bit to get it off. I think he's going to need to kind of increase that release speed when he gets to the next level to get it off against some of these better athletes and just be able to get it off quicker in a more efficient manner. So that's something that I think he's going to have to work on. And that's just getting, adjusted and used to playing at the speed of the NBA. But his ability to kind of control the game and make it played at the speed that he wants, I think is a unteachable thing. Really, you can kind of learn it over the time, but it's just something that I feel like most guys, either you have it or you don't, and you can dictate the way that you play the game. And Tyler Kolek showed the ability to do that at Marquette. Do I think he'll be able to do it at the same level of the NBA? Not quite, but I still think he'll be able to do it enough where he's a valuable asset for a team. And like I said, with the jump shot, not the quickest release, but past 2 years shot about 38.5% average from deep. So it's a pretty solid number there. If he shoots that for his career with his playmaking ability, he's going to be around for a very long time. The ability to finish in different ways around the rim with layups and floaters from all different angles, whether it's, straight up, he's just finishing at the rim, or he's got a high arcing floater, or he needs to bank it in on a floater from either side or from straight up. He has that ability, and reverse, right hand, left hand. For a left-handed guy, shows the ability to finish around the rim with his right hand a lot as well. And as I was saying too, his ability to change pace and change directions, that's really, I think, what sets him apart as that super fundamental guard, because he has to do that, because he's not a guy that is going to be able to just blow right by you one dribble and use his body to finish up and over you. He's going to have to change speed, change directions, and he's really good at that in transition too. I think, like, going down kind of full speed on the break, and then he kind of acts like he's going to pull it back out, brings it out a little bit, and then boom, right by you again. Really good kind of with that hesitation move. He's a decent athlete too. He's never going to be the best on his team, but I think he's a functional enough athlete to hold his own. And he shows the ability to pull up consistently from beyond the arc. I think his ability to, if a guy goes underneath on a ball screen on him, he's comfortable enough to pull up from deep. He's able to hit shots off the dribble from deep. That ability to hit shots from kind of all over the court, and not just as a catch and shoot player, but off the dribble, makes you, even more of a valuable player. The more you can score the ball, the better. And when he eventually gets to the point where, all right, he's knocking these shots down, we're going to have to come out there and double, and we're going to have to trap him. He's got such that kind of good IQ where he'll probably even see that coming before it happens, and he makes the right play, makes the right read to be that kind of primary initiator on the offensive end. Also shows that kind of that Jalen Brunson-esque type of thing, where with the booty ball that they call it, where he's able to kind of back defenders down in the post or off the mid post, and then maybe make a play for himself. I saw a couple plays watching film of him where he made like a nice spin move and got to the layup, got to the rim for a layup, or he's doing that back down booty ball thing and he's making a play for someone else on a skip pass across the court. That ability as a 6'3" guard to have that vision and that kind of intellect to make those plays, that's another really great asset to have, and also just kind of staying in control at all times. Just the playmaking for him is superb. I think you can make an argument that off the bounce, when he's got the ball in his hands, whether he's in transition or making a play off a pick and roll, or even if he's just trying to beat a defender one-on-one off the dribble, he is the best passer in the class. The vision is next level. And like Rick Pitino said about Tyler Kolek, he always sees the game one play ahead, and he always makes the play one step early than anyone else. So when he's thinking that the next level, that's what makes up for some of these, athletic deficiencies and not being the tallest guy, not being the strongest, not being the fastest. He plays the game at such an elite high IQ level, with elite vision and the ability to score, the ability to control the game at his own pace. That gives you a firm enough reason to believe that he's going to be able to stick in this league. Really great too. And this was what he was doing with Oso Ighodaro at Marquette, being able to work in the lob game, whether it's guys, he beats guys off the dribble, he draws the help, throw up the lob. He's working on a pick and roll, drives, draws a defender, throws up a lob. He's great at throwing lobs and kind of either those dump off passes. I think he's going to be great at kind of dropping off dimes into guys in the NBA in the dunker spot as well. I think at the next level too, he's going to be more than well aware that he's going to have to be a pass first player and just more so a team guy, not going to have to go out there and get 20 to 25 as he would have to do at Marquette sometimes for them to survive. So I think he's a self-aware enough guy, and I'm not comparing him fully to Jalen Brunson, but he has a lot of the same traits and attributes. I know Jalen Brunson was a National Player of the Year. Tyler Kolek was an All-American last year, a second team, I believe, All-American this year. He just, the more and more I watch him and go through his game, the more and more kind of comparisons I see. And I'm not willing enough to hitch my wagon to it that he's going to be the next Jalen Brunson. But if he falls in the second round and one day he's averaging 15 points and 7 assists at the next level, maybe even kind of like a Mike Conley type of player, I could see that happening for him. Like I said, great at working off screens. Shows kind of the mature player. The biggest concern with him, I think, is his on-ball defense and his athleticism. He's going to be a solid team defender, a real high IQ player that knows where to be, will be in the good spots. Effort's always going to be there as well. But how reliable can he be on defense? Our team's going to kind of expose him, go at him. You might have to hide him a little bit. But I think he's a aware enough player where he's going to be able to kind of work on some of these deficiencies, but also be a good enough team defender where he's not a super liability that he really gets played off the floor. How athletic he can maybe become or how good he can be on defense, I think is ultimately going to determine the type of player, the level of player that he becomes. But at the end of the day, I think his offense is going to be good enough to hold him a spot in the league for probably 10 to 12 years at the minimum. But whether he becomes, just a backup or a full-time starter in the NBA, I think that's going to depend on how he does on the defensive end. My draft projection for him, we're going to go either the late first or the early second. And I knew I threw around the name Jalen Brunson. Like I said, Jalen Brunson has arguably made himself into one of the top 10 players in the NBA. Do I ever expect Tyler Kolek to be there? No. So a player that I think more so Tyler Kolek could resemble is another lefty guard, Cam Payne, a guy that comes off the bench. For at least for watching him for the Sixers this year, when he came in, he was a spark plug. Sure, Cam Payne probably a little bit more of a scorer. Tyler Kolek a little bit more of a playmaker, but they don't play with that it factor, that swag, that energy that you need as a backup point guard to come off the bench and kind of ignite a team. I would have no doubts that or no worries that Tyler Kolek could come in there. And if my starting point guard was out for 5 to 6 games, Tyler Kolek could come in there and hold his own and keep the team afloat. I think Cam Payne is a really good comparison because Cam Payne, by the end of his career, he's probably going to have a 10 to 12 year career himself, make himself probably 80 to $100 million in the NBA. And if Tyler Kolek, you're able to get that at the end of the first, beginning of the second round, the whole kind of theme around this draft, I think, is role players and finding guys that can help you immediately next year. I think Tyler Kolek's that guy. You're not really buying in on much more potential, but what he can bring to the table next year and potentially even to a playoff team if you're picking at the end of the first round and you're looking at him. I think that he's a no-brainer for another really safe pick and what he can bring to you on the offensive end. Just can he be a little bit better on the defensive end? Maybe even, turn himself into a long-term starting point guard in the league. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But that'll do it for the Tyler Kolek breakdown. Another player really hoping to see succeed at the next level. Was a really fun player to watch in college at Marquette. And another guy that kind of fits that description. Don't overthink it. We saw 2 really super productive years in the Big East. A guy that has shown time and time again that when he's kind of got his back against the wall, he's going to come out and prove himself. Came from George Mason and then made himself into the Big East Player of the Year at Marquette as a 6'3", lefty guard with not much athleticism to him. That's a guy that I'm going to be willing to bet on going forward. That'll do it for this episode of the Beef Up Front podcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk soon.